Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. A few weeks ago I had a dream where it was one of those really vivid dreams where you think it's real. And in this dream I was in a house that had many floors on it, and I was in the basement, on the basement level, in the basement, and above the basement there was like the entry level, and then above that there was like the living area, and then above that was the bedroom area. So I was in the basement and in my dream, and my mother was in the bedroom area, and I heard her coming down the stairs to the living room level, and she was talking out loud to me, and I could hear her in the basement. So as I heard her speaking, I started to come up the stairs from the basement onto to the entry level of the house, and working my way towards her to meet her in the living area. And as she was coming down the stairs, she was saying, you know, I've just come to terms with the fact that in this lifetime, I wasn't meant to, in this lifetime, I just wasn't meant to be with somebody who loved me. And so, kind of to give you a backstory, she's passed away now. Both of my parents have passed away, and they didn't have a very happy marriage. And my mother's relationship with my father was that she was always trying to make him love her, always trying to do things to please him, and he was never ever pleased. And I feel like the more she tried, the worse their relationship became. And so yeah, they just had, unfortunately, they had a pretty unhappy life with each other. So after years and years and years of trying to, trying to do things to please him, to make him love her, she, in this dream, and obviously till she died, they still didn't have any reconciliation. So in this dream, she was saying to me, oh, okay, I've just come to terms with the fact that in this lifetime, I just wasn't supposed to be with somebody who loved me. And it almost felt like she was at peace with that now, after feeling like she was failing in her relationship. She was failing to have a good relationship. She was failing to make him love her, or even just be pleased with her. So that in that way, it was kind of like the final, kind of like she just had come to terms with it. So as I was hearing in my dream, as I was hearing her say this, the dream version of me was coming up the stairs. And then as I got to the entry level, so just below her, I felt this movement in my gut, and something bubbling up from my gut, and it was words. It was like a response, but the response wasn't coming from my mind or from my heart. It was a sensation, and I didn't even know what the words were going to be. It was a sensation that I felt in my gut, and I was feeling like I wanted to respond to her. And as the words came up, and then they came out of my mouth, and the words that came out were not anything that I would have consciously or still would want to say, or have had thought about, or had considered. So they were quite like they were a new idea to me, even because they didn't come from my mind. So it's not something that I had contemplated or thought about. So as the words came out, I found the words that came out. I found myself saying, you know, the purpose of life isn't to find somebody who loves you. The purpose of life is to cultivate a loving relationship with yourself. And as these words came up and came out of my mouth, and as I said them, I woke up. And at that moment, I thought, wow, that feels very true. And it feels like something very important. So it didn't come from my mind. I don't know where it came from. But in this dream, that even though it was a dream, it still applies in reality. It still applies to reality, even though it was a dream. And then I thought about myself and how it relates to me. And I thought, wow, that is really true. And this is a really important message. And I don't know, I know people talk about loving yourself, which I have, is such a, who knows what that actually means. And it means different things to different people, probably. And then I hear people talking about what is the purpose of life, like why are we here? What is the purpose of existence and our greater purpose and all of this? And I'm sure there are many purposes. I'm sure there's more than one. But right now I feel like, after having this experience, I feel like this might be the essence of all of the other purposes that we may have or feel like we have or want to have. This might be the core motivation, or I don't know about motivation, but drive, maybe that's what we're searching for. Maybe when, as I spoke about my theory of the seeker, the seekers, like we're all seekers, which is in my other video, what is missing pieces. So I said, what are we seeking? Many things. This might be the thing, the main thing that we might be seeking, is to cultivate a loving relationship with ourselves. And what does that mean? What does that mean, cultivating a loving relationship with yourself? It's I think, a very complex topic. I don't know. I don't know what it is for other people, but it is something that I have considered myself. Like, I have been thinking about it for myself. And I know that when, the many years that I was going through a difficult time in my life, my husband would say, "What are you going to get your hair done?" Or, the kids would say, "Take better care of yourself, Mom." Or somebody would say, "Go and have a massage," or exercise, and all those things are valid, I feel. But whenever I've tried, whenever I went to get my hair done, or got a massage, or, did some exercise, or whatever it is, try to eat well, I still felt like there's something missing. I just feel like it just felt like like if you have dry skin and you put like an ointment, and it's just on the surface. It hasn't penetrated through all the levels. I felt like these things were not penetrating to the level where I needed them, and kind of felt a little bit hollow. They make you feel good, of course, but there's just something like I had this feeling that there's like the skin has many levels, that there's like levels below myself that's not being taken care of, and I didn't know what those were until of course, like a very difficult time in my life, a lot of like illness and pain and physical pain and suffering that left me very depleted, for nearly 2 years. And as I was recovering during that time, as I started to gain a little bit more stamina to the point where I could actually make some food for myself, and I was just making a little bit of food, eating, and then sleeping. And I didn't have to rely on somebody to bring me food in bed. I don't remember what the trigger was, what that happened, but I remember thinking, you know what? I was upset about something, I remember, and I thought to myself, I just made a decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to treat myself as if I would treat a best friend, or I would treat my baby or child. I'm going to treat myself like this. And I just made that decision. And since then, my life has changed for the better. I'm happier. I take better care of myself, and my family are happier because they can see I'm taking better care of myself. Because before that, I was always trying to take care of other people, like do nice things for other people. Like I will do things for other people that I wouldn't do for myself. So this topic came up recently, just in in my personal life, and it's one of those things that comes up every now and then with in different situations. So I know it's important. So I did want to talk about this and share my experience about it. So when I say on that occasion, when I said when I decided I'm going to treat myself as I would treat my best friend, I was just about to have my lunch. So I thought at that time, well, how would I treat my friend? If she came over for lunch, what would I do? I would set a nice table, right? I would maybe put a nice tablecloth on. I would put in, the placemat, get a proper napkin, like a cloth napkin. I might get a nice glass and fill it with whatever and have some flowers, whatever. So whatever I had at the time, I just gathered those things and set a beautiful table setting, just one place setting for myself for that meal, which I had never done before. I just put something in there, just gobble it up and whatever, and not go to the effort of placing the napkin and the cutlery and the placemat and all of that and the glass and whatever and a candle. And I wasn't doing any of that for myself. I didn't have time, but I do that for other people. So that's how it started. So I now know some of the things that I need, sort of like my inner child, taking care of my inner child. This is what my inner child needs. So yeah. So one of the things I do regularly is, though it doesn't matter how simple the food is, it doesn't matter if it's a piece of toast or an omelette, or whatever, a bit piece of pizza, a slice of pizza, or whatever it is. I like to like to set the table, like set, not the whole table, but like one setting for myself. So I'll put my placemat, like I found a nice placemat that I like, and I'll put the napkin. I started off with the cloth napkin and the crystal glass. That's how I started off. And then of course I don't go to that extent now. That was like an extreme. But I think it was necessary. So now I'll just have my things that I like, and a paper napkin, a nice paper napkin, and then put it on a nice plate, like the good plate. And I eat from the good plates now, not from the, not leave the good plates for a special occasion when a friend comes over, because I am the friend, right? I'm treating myself as an honored guest. So I use the good plate. I use the good china, not the casual china anymore. So that's one of the things that I do. What is that? Oh, I just like if I had a small child or a baby, what do? We make sure they get to bed on time. Like when I was, my kids were little, I would make sure they go to bed on time, and they have a wind down time. They have a bath, they have a story, they get, have a bath, get changed into their PJs, the story, whatever, and wind down. And I do that to myself now. Not necessarily the bath, but like sometimes, and sometimes I don't, depending on when I've had the bath that day. But that's what I do. So I sort of like, okay, after, in the evening, everything is over, I say, okay, it's, time for you. I don't say it, but I kind of like, I have the routine. So what I'm doing is I'm taking care of me, saying, okay, now time to transition to your thing and do this and that. Whereas staying up late was not doing me any favors. I was just spending my time wasting it. I feel like I was wasting it. So even though I may not necessarily fall asleep very early, I'm in bed at a good, decent time that I'm supposed to be. And then if I'm not so tired, I might stay up a bit longer. But sometimes I'm really tired, and you don't realize it until you wind down. But I've noticed that it winds me down. Like, by the time I take my makeup off, wash my face, blah, 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 brush your teeth. Well, then I get into bed, baby. Okay, so that's another thing that I do. And okay, that's two things. So the third thing I tend to do is, and actually it was the very first thing that I ever did, was of self-care, was to buy some really good quality sheets, like the good quality sheets of what I can afford, that range of what I can afford. So the ones that are like, you can iron them, and then they're like crisp cotton, nice sheets. And we just had a regular bed. We don't have like any fancy bed, but the sheets I purchased were very good quality, and but they weren't crazy expensive either. They were just from the like department store, and I made my bed. Like I don't like I put a lot of effort into making the bed. I use the top sheet, and I iron the sheets after they're washed. I iron them so they're nice and crisp, put them away. Then I of course, regularly change the sheets. And just to get into a bed that's, crisp, with crisp sheets, putting yourself into bed, just like as if you would do, if it was your friend came over. If your friend came over, you would have these nice sheets, you put out, you make the bed nicely, as if I would make it for my friend, and I make it for myself every single day. So I don't need anybody to do that for me. I do it for myself. What else do I do? I try to eat well. or what my idea of well is. So, which is I try to eat some vegetables every day. Oh yes, 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 yes. I remember now. So the number one thing that I do for myself, and the number one thing I noticed during this difficult time that I had, was I noticed that my internal dialogue wasn't always the kindest to me. And although I qualities in other people that I would think, so what, who cares? I was very, very hard on myself. And I was judging myself a lot. I can't say that all of these scripts that were running in my head were my own. And I think it's the same with most people. I quickly realized that a lot of times they were things that I had experienced growing up, like with my parents. So a lot of them were coming from my parents, which is fine because that's life, and people are not perfect. I'm not perfect. That's just part. Or many people experience these things. I'm not the only one. So, but having realized that majority of these thoughts and these expectations were not my own was very liberating, because now I could change it. And I thought, no, I'm going to speak to myself as kindly as I would speak to a small child, my child, or a dear friend, and stop judging myself. And because I have a history of meditation, it helped me to ignore these thoughts, these just it's this inner dialogue. Just ignore it, and it would come up, and then I would just ignore it, and sometimes I would in my mind go, no, that's not right. No, I'm going to be kind to myself. It's okay. Just like when I don't make a video, it's okay, I don't make a video. So yeah, so then slowly they just quietened and then just went away. And I find that now that I am less judgmental of myself, I find my life way more peaceful. And I find myself much happier, and I find my relationships are better and healthier. So going back to, cultivating a loving relationship with yourself, having talked about the bed and all of this, the bed, the bed linen and the number one thing is, I feel for me, is it was and has been and still continues to be, my inner dialogue, is being aware of my inner dialogue, and am I being kind to myself? Because quite often I found that my actions follow my thoughts. So, you know, if my thoughts are, why are you being so lazy, blah, 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 then my actions will be, oh, okay, I'll do this, whatever. Or if my inner dialogue is, you're tired, just have a rest. It's okay to have a rest. So then, of course, my actions will be to take a rest. So I do feel like that's my number one priority, that has been and still is. And thankfully, I was able to overcome those scripts and that way of speaking to myself. So I do feel like that is my number one goal. Yeah, speaking to myself in a kind and loving way, as I would anybody that I love. This dream that I had had a big impact on me, and I really wanted to share this dream and those words. And then, like, this, you know, the strategy I had used for myself is just treat always, whatever I'm doing, I always think to myself, or not any longer, but when I was trying to learn how to cultivate a loving relationship with myself, I just thought to myself, how in this situation, how would I treat my child, my small baby, or my small child, or my dearest friend? What would I do for them? And then I take that and I do that for myself. And yeah, so maybe a bit rambly video, but I'm glad I made this one. So okay, take care, everyone. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you in the next video.